You have made it to the USA on an L1A visa. Here is why you need to apply for a green card. But first, a quick recap. An L1A is a temporary visa, not a permanent one. It allows you to stay in the USA initially for 3 years, and then you can extend it in 2-year increments up to 7 years. Now, 7 years might seem like a long time, and after 7 years, you might want to go back home anyway. But what if you really love living here and you want to stay longer? And you also might be thinking about what are the risks associated with an L1A while staying here. In this video, I am going to talk about the risks associated with staying on an L1A and really why you should push for getting a green card. There are 2 main reasons to apply for a green card, and that is really to reduce your risk and increase your freedom. But what do I mean by that? Let's start with the risks. Your L1A is tied to the company that brought you here on the role that it was approved on. That means if the company decide to terminate your role, you will lose your L1A status. Game over, you will need to leave the country. I believe they give you about 2 weeks to stay, and that is it. This can be quite costly. Imagine you've just moved here, maybe you've signed up to a year's rental agreement, maybe you've even purchased a home, and you've just spent all that time shipping your things over. I can only imagine what that would be like. Now, a quick tip for you. If you are currently in the process of getting an L1A visa through your company and you have a relocation package offered, it is worth asking them for what they call repatriation assistance. I think I said that correctly. But essentially what that means is in your relocation package, the company will cover some of the costs if something unfortunate like that was to happen. I cannot stress that reason enough, especially with the current climate. Even for me, when I got here, I didn't like that feeling of knowing that if I lost my job, I would have to leave, and just the financial impact of what that would mean. So do yourself a favor and put yourself in the best position. Now, thinking about freedom, I've never really liked the idea of always being tied to a company and not feeling like I can't leave if I want to. Now, I've been with my company for a while and it's unlikely that I would choose to leave, but you never know what happens. Maybe you move to the USA and you're just not getting on with your colleagues anymore, or you change, things change. You don't want to do that role anymore, or you start to network and meet other people and you see other opportunities. The problem with the L1A is that you can't go for any of these opportunities. Again, you are tied to that company and that role. And that is another reason to go for a green card, because once you are on a green card, you have complete freedom. You can go for any job with any company that you want. Are there any other risks? Yes, there are. And this next one is really due to the fact that the L1A is not a lawful permanent resident of the USA, and perhaps one that we wouldn't have known about without the pandemic happening. So what happened? During the pandemic, Trump imposed a travel ban, and that travel ban meant that if you were not a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident, you were not allowed to re-enter or enter the USA. Now imagine this, you are traveling for work. Let's say you're in Iceland, your partner's back home, your kids are at school, and then they impose the travel ban. What that would have meant for you was that you would not have been allowed to go back to your family. You would have been stuck in whatever country, or allowed to go back to your home country, but you would not have been allowed to go back to the USA. Huge implications for families that were impacted by this, because essentially they were split for months while they were trying to figure out how to reunite. Were the family going to join them back home in their home country? Were they going to work with an attorney to allow them to get back into the USA? Imagine your financial obligations with your home, baby car payments. Just a horrible, horrible position for families that were impacted by that. All because essentially you are not a lawful permanent resident. And this is another huge reason why having the green card is so important. Now, when we moved to the USA on the L1A, yes, I did care about the risk of losing my job, perhaps, or the freedom to move to another company. But the real reason I actually pushed for the green card was because of what happened in the pandemic, because I knew that I would be traveling for my work and would be traveling as well. We would go back to the UK. Sometimes we wouldn't be traveling together. I really didn't want to be in that position, knowing what had just happened the year before. Why put myself in that position at risk? Let's say, yes, you do like it here, but you're really not that fussed. What else can I say to convince you that you should get on the green card? It's just burdensome. going through the process, because yes, you come here initially for 3 years, and in your mind you're thinking, well, I have up to 7 years in the country, and actually 7 years is all I want to do. But there is a process that you have to constantly go through. So after the first 3 years, you have to reapply. They recommend going back to your home country to do that application, because if you apply from the USA, it typically doesn't have a good success rate. So then you have to go after 3 years, then you have to do it again after another 2 years. And there's always a risk with that, because it's never guaranteed that your visa is going to be approved for the 7 years. So in my mind, it's another reason, not only for yourself, if you know you want to be here, but also for the company as well. Because if the company know, actually, you're doing a great job, they want you to continue in that role, why, even from their perspective, put that at risk when they could just get you onto a green card? And this leads to the last part. Going from an L1A to an EB1C has a high success rate, and that is because the requirements of an EB1C green card is almost identical to that of an L1A. There is one caveat to that though, and that is that you must apply within the first 2 years of being here, because you need to have been working in a managerial or executive position continuously for 1 year in the preceding 3 years. And that's probably the most important thing to remember here. If you have the intent to go for the green card, do it within the first 2 years, because after that, you cannot go for that type of green card. You will need to find another way of staying in the USA. There you have it. If you are enjoying living in the USA and want to stay here, I highly recommend speaking to your company about getting you onto an EB1C visa as soon as possible. As always, if you've got any questions, comment below. Do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.